This is serious stuff. It's a very interesting subject here. One of President Obama's 23 executive orders after the Sandy Hook massacre was to allow doctors, actually to force doctors, to ask patients about guns in their homes. And it's happening. I want you to look at this questionnaire that one of our producers had to fill out while switching to a new doctor's office. It asks, quote, "Are you worried about unsecured weapons in the home?" All rise, Judge Andrew Napolitano is here. That seems to me like a gross intrusion.
Well, it is a gross intrusion on privacy because it is utterly unrelated to the reason for which the producer, in this case our colleague and friend, or any patient would go and see a physician. It intrudes on the privacy of the physician-patient relationship, which is protected from intrusion by federal and state law. So here's how it works. Before Obamacare kicks in, and in a gross overreaction to the tragedy at Sandy Hook in Connecticut, the president directs his Secretary of Health and Human Services to direct the Department of Health and Human Services that monitors hospitals to inform all hospitals that new patients and people coming for same-day surgery must be asked these questions. So I don't know the context in which your producer was asked this question. I don't know if it was in a hospital or at a doctor's office.
Doctors, he was switching to a new doctor's office, changing doctors.
So this is a pre-Obamacare instruction. Once Obamacare kicks in, the statute will tell doctors to ask this. So, a couple of things. Must the doctor ask? Yes. Must the patient answer? Absolutely not. If the doctor says to you, "Are you worried about guns in your house?" I have no opinion. Are there guns in your house? None of your business. Are there guns in your house that are secured? I'm not answering. But, are you in a happy relationship at home? I don't have to answer you.
That's an important point. Are you in a happy relationship at your home? That was a direct intrusion.
Most people will think, just like when the police ask you a question, that they have to answer. They don't need to answer under the law.
I don't care whether they need to answer it. The fact that the question is asked,
yes,
and it didn't go through Congress, this did not go through Congress.
It's exceptionally troublesome. Aha. The question about the guns did go through Congress. It was part of that 2,700-page thing. Your guest, two before me, knows it. She's one of the few people on the planet, former Lieutenant Governor Betsy McCoy of New York, who's read all 2,700 pages. That was in there.
It was? Okay.
Yes.
Well, what about asking about, are you happy with your spouse? That's another question on doctors' forms.
That is totally the creation of Health and Human Services.
What could they possibly be looking for, Judge? That's what I want to know. What are they trying to get at there? You know, I mean, I know it's a guess, but what would it be?
I think that their argument is that if there's an emotional problem at home, they should know about it because it might affect their treating you. But for the government to compel that question, that's the problem. Without authority under the Constitution or from the Congress or from federal law or from any source, puts the government in the middle of the patient-physician relationship. And that is a sacred relationship, one where there has to be free communication of ideas, not information that's going to go to the government. Suppose your producer had said, I have guns, but they're not registered. Or suppose the producer have said, my wife is mistreating the kids. Is the medical professional going to report that to law enforcement? Because that would invade the patient-physician relationship.
Now, you say that at this moment, the patient doesn't have to answer those questions.
Correct.
You can say you don't have to. Now, what happens after January the 1st, 2014, when the doctor asks me or anybody else about ownership of guns?
Still don't have to answer.
You still don't have to answer.
Right. But the government does not have to tell you that you don't have to answer. Think about this. The police arrest you, and they say to you, I'm going to ask you some questions, but you don't have to answer. Miranda. You go to your doctor, and they ask you questions, and they don't say to you, you don't have to answer, and you think you do. That invades the privacy, that intimidates and destroys your right to privacy by force of government, turning doctors into federal agents. That's what it's doing.
And this is the Health and Human Services Department, which is making the doctors ask these questions. This is not the IRS scandal.
Correct.
Okay, it's separate and different.
Correct. This is the Health and Human Services Department, which micromanages hospitals, telling the hospitals you have to have your doctors ask these questions.
You know, I'm going to have to reread 1984 by George Orwell, because this is Big Brother
coming true.
writ large.
Yes.
Extraordinary stuff.
Yes.
Judge, thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. We appreciate it.